Okay, so for myself as an individual, so I'm gonna be talking more from an individual contributor's perspective for the next little bit and kind of go through how I work through my day in Function Point as a salesperson. So I had a dashboard. I actually had a dashboard that literally looked like this when I was an individual contributor. So my dashboard had my tasks and to do. So the tasks and to do will quickly list out all the different sales activities I need to perform either today, overdue, or coming up. So I got my discovery, and when I hover over the task, I can see the discovery call that I've made with Gina and what my next steps were, which client it is with, and of course, when I need to complete this by. Okay, I can also see any job updates. If they are an existing client, I can see that this task is related to the job for an existing client if I am managing that client as well. So I personally love this because when I hover over the task, I know exactly what the note was and what I actually needed to do. Okay, so at the bottom half, we have the job, so I can see any existing jobs that I'm involved with, and then also if anything's coming up due from so if I need to change the project managers. So that's my dashboard, but typically I just work through this task list at the start of the day. But let's go ahead and take a look at what if I want to, once I complete my task list, I want to start prospecting. So in Function Point, I personally recommend using the company section to prospect. So you can quickly click on Find Company. There is a field called Qualification. Okay. This is the field I use, and this is a customizable drop-down list to adjust to your sales process. In this case, I have lead, MQL, SAL, proposal stage, and client. So I can quickly go in and say, okay, what are the marketing qualified leads that have come over? Click on find. Oh, actually, or maybe I should see if there's any proposal stage. See if I have data on that. Okay, so I can see that I have 6 companies that are within the proposal stage. And I can click into any single one to see more details. So going into a company here, so I'm actually going to go into a different company that has some better examples called Great Atlantic Insurance. So like any basic CRM tool, you can use this to track the client's address, phone number, who the account, so the AE is really who the salesperson has ownership of this account, what rate card that you have. But on the right-hand side, this is where you can see the different qualification and the company type. So these 2 fields, company type and qualification, are really the 2 fields you're going to be using a lot to track what type of lead they are. So under qualification, again, customize this and then you can update that as you see fit as you move through the sales process. Other areas you can have up to 10 custom fields on your company and contact as well. So if you want to track a person's phone number, you want to track their anniversary, maybe this custom field was the corporate budget year-end date. So you can go ahead and have that in there as well. So it's up to you what you would like to do with that. The contact section, this is, you can, when you first start, you will be able to upload a bunch of contacts on here, but you can see their phone number, email address, cell phone, title, etc. Now, this is key. One key thing about this is that you please make sure, in order for the email integration to work, you need to make sure your customer or prospect's email address does exist inside Function Point. Once it does, then the notes section is going to have a history of all the things, we'll be able to have all the email communications you have with that specific contact. So you can see here, this email that was sent by Bobby with Gina Hackman was just automatically uploaded into the notes section here. I personally really like this because it's like tracking a history of all the activities. If I want to see a history of all the communications and activities, definitely use our email integration, which is basically BCCing the BCCing function point, your function point system. And then all I need to do is just hover over it to see the details. And so let's say I've talked to Gina over the phone and I want to make a note about it. We had a meeting and I want to track a note and also create a follow-up activity as well. So on the top right-hand side, I'm going to create a note. So note is where you're going to be tracking all your calls, all your activities, all your meetings with the client. You can create different templates on these notes as well. I highly recommend if you want to standardize your sales process, always have a bunch of notes. It's going to help standardize your workflow, but it also helps your salespeople to make sure that they did ask all the questions. So for example, if I had a discovery call, who were the attendees? So maybe Gina Hackman, which is the owner, and her needs is that she wants to revamp their website and make sure it has greater than 85 site speed for the new Google requirements, SEO requirements. And maybe she has a budget of 20K to do this. And the next steps is to talk to internal team to strategize and create draft estimate. I can select who this is with, and here's my favorite part of Function Point CRM. If you can take away, and if you can forget everything else on this webinar, I want you to just remember this. This is absolutely where, as a salesperson, I can, once I make the note, when you have that communication, you typically have a next step. And I want to say, maybe send this by next Monday, and I can create a follow-up task right on here. By clicking this create follow-up task and save, a few things are going to happen. This communication is now going to be saved under Gina and also Great Atlantic Insurance. However, I don't actually need to do a separate thing or make in my calendar to do a follow-up or anything, make it in my notepad, because by hitting that create follow-up task, notice the task is now showing up on my to-do list along with the note I just made. So and I know who it is with, and it's with Gina Hackman, and I need to complete that on April 19th. Okay. So really, it's a great way to track your historical communication and also track the next steps so that you stay on top and not miss your sales opportunities. All right. I hope people found that really helpful. I personally really loved it, so I can't say, I can't repeat enough about that. But going back to the notes section under Great Atlantic Insurance, if I ever come back, I can always go in here and be able to see the details and maybe any previous conversations I might have had just by hovering over through this. Cool. Any questions thus far, I guess, Sophia, that I can help with before we go into the next step of the sales process?
Hey, yeah, thanks for checking in. Lots of really good questions coming through. There have been a couple just around the initial company type qualification items in those drop downs on how you can label the different companies in here. I just want to let you all know this can be customized through the list maintenance in the back end of your system. So a lot of you are like, wait, what were those? I want to make sure that they're set up that way. These can be adjusted as you need based off your terminology, your workflow. So that's just something I want to remind everyone of. So if there's something that works better for you and this doesn't work, that can be changed. So just wanted to elaborate a bit on that. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, awesome. Now, my recommendation as being in sales for a number of years is that you can, for the qualification on the company level, to keep it high level. This is where you really should, similar to what I have here. I personally would probably just keep it at lead, MQL, SAL, and client. Okay. It's much more straightforward because I'm going to actually show you in the next step on the estimate how we can track your actual opportunity stages as well. All right,
Jimmy,
so let's go. Oh,
sorry,
go
just
ahead.
while we're on this page, I just had someone ask about the how did you BCC the FP job in there, and if you don't mind just highlighting that connect to email button there, that can provide you with those different items in there.
Yeah, so in your system, you will have a unique global BCC email address. So what you want to do, whether you're on Gmail or Outlook, you would want to just go into the backend of your Gmail or Outlook setup and have it just auto BCC this, have every single email, right, just auto BCC this email address. And for any inbound emails, just have it auto forward to this email address. And once you do that, then like I mentioned before, it will then populate in the notes section as long as you have that contact's email address in function point. And if you will make sure to send in the follow-up email to have the step-by-step of where you can grab that global BCC email address. All right. So next step, let's talk a little bit about the briefs and how that you might be able to utilize that as part of your sales process. Now, the brief is an optional step in your sales process. So when you create the brief, this is a way, if you have a more complex sales process, this is a way to track, say, let's, website refresh. You can create that website brief, and you can use this as a way to customize the status of your brief. So this might be a way to say, okay, to manage requests from existing clients, for example. Okay, so it's sort of like a queue of your potential sales before they turn into an opportunity. You might have that chat, and you can put a potential budget on here and delivery date as well. It is another way, because of the status, to be able, you can customize this. I've seen some teams utilize this to track like what was submitted, pending estimate, pending approval, etc., as a way to track a secondary stage in your process. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and quickly create this brief. Okay. So I personally am a big believer of briefs, even if they are not a customer yet, because for client briefs, this ensures as a salesperson, you remember to ask every single question and set the right expectation up front. But it also builds a lot of value because in function point, you can quickly generate a PDF and a client-facing version of this brief. Okay, so in this brief, you can quickly see, let them know, hey, this is what we talked about, when you want this done, what your budget is, and what your big pictures are. And these questions are completely customizable, and you can attach this as part of your proposal or your follow-up. Okay, highly recommended. But we do have another. If you would like to learn more about how brief is done, we did cover that in previous webinars and training articles. So so we'll focus more on opportunity pipeline today, though. So to create an opportunity. So let's say you've now talked to the lead, there's a good engagement, they want a proposal, you've gotten to a point where you really want to stay on top of this. So the estimate module inside function point also acts as a way to track your sales opportunity pipeline. So when you create the estimate, you're going to be able to see that, I'm creating this for Great Atlantic Insurance with Gina Hackman. The key fields I want you to focus on is this close probability and also month close. The close probability will feed into a sales pipeline report afterwards. So as you're talking through this client, maybe this is in a very early research and exploration stage. So my close probability is only 20%. And I know that this is going to be closed in around May timeframe. Let's go ahead and pick and choose what type of services we're going to provide, and also should have some expense items as well. So once you create, so I'm hoping that everyone is familiar with the estimating process. If you would like to learn more about details of the estimating process, we do have a previous webinar back in February that will walk you through every single detail of that. However, I want to divert your attention now to under the basic info tab, there is an approval status. Okay, this is a great place to track the stages of your pipeline, okay, of all the estimates and proposals you've sent out. So in this case, I have this dropdown is actually now customizable. Okay. So previously, and we made this change about 6 months ago, actually. So you can utilize this dropdown to track things like maybe if you're in a discovery, client review, proposal, negotiation, verbal approval, agreement, or it's been approved or declined. So this is customizable. What that means is at any given point, if you keep this updated, you will be able to go in and click on Find Estimate and say, I want to look for all my opportunities that are maybe in the in-review stage. Okay, and that can close with a close probability of greater than 10%. Click on Find. Oh, I should have hit Find Active, but in this case, you can see I have 5 opportunities that are currently active. Here are their probability and month close with the total pipeline value with it. And then I can, of course, drill down into each one as I see fit. So this is the way, so the estimate, once again, the estimate status. So the fields for your pipeline tracking is really the estimate approval status, the close probability, and the month close. So these are the 3 key fields when you create an estimate to track your opportunity pipeline. Questions before we keep going here?
Hey, Jimmy. So the couple of questions that are just coming in right now are actually in relation to reporting on this. So I know you were just showing that list, but how we can get it a little more detailed, maybe if we're wanting to compare like department to department or like team to team. So I know that you hadn't planned on actually showing these specific reports in the system, but I just want to let everyone know that like we do have some pipeline reports. Jimmy will talk about where you can find them, and then of course through our BI, there's definitely lots of options for us to build some of these out.
Okay. And if we have time at the end, I can definitely try to show where those reports reside. I do want to show where that data is coming from first, though, in the day-to-day. So now we've created this estimate. As you know, you can generate a client-facing version of this estimate to as you see fit. One thing I personally really liked about generating this client-facing estimate is the most amount of time before when I was using an Excel or Word or whichever other tool to generate my estimate, it was very hard to decide, which line items and customize what line items I want to show or not show. So in function point, once you finish generating your estimate, there's a print column on the right-hand side beside each line item. So in this case, maybe I want to show just the one line item with the web design cost, but for the expenses, I want to expand on that so that be transparent about it. So you can just pick and choose which of these line items you want to show or not show. And by doing that, your client-facing estimate will now just show that one line for the web design and then the breakdown for the expenses. So really cool tool. You have your estimate, you don't really need to rejig and revamp things in order to just show the items you want to have. Another key part where that happens a lot for agencies in the sales process, there's going to be a lot of back and forth. You send the initial website proposal and they're like, well, what if you guys just do all the copy and we have an in-house designer, so we'll just do the design ourselves. Would that work for you? Or we just, let us give you all the design work. We have a creative team for that, but we don't have any technical person. So maybe you can just do the web development part. Or perhaps, they decide that, hey, on top of web design, I want you guys to also do, the SEO part, make sure it is SEO compliant. Just really making stuff up now. So in this case, you can create what's called a revision. So I'm going to go ahead and add, maybe we're going to do some creative work and just put some random fake numbers on here. Okay. So we added maybe some design for the website. So in this case, we have $3,200 extra. Now, and I just realized I missed the step. So before I do that, I should have just clicked on this create revision. So to track, when you create a revision, what's going to happen is there is now this estimate number will show in R1. As you make the changes, which I was doing before, so once you make the changes, you're now going to see that my total has increased, but under the revisions tab, as you're talking to the client, you'll be able to say, okay, yeah, we sent you a proposal on whichever date, and it was for 6,300. But because of what you additionally requested, we're now at 8,800. If they decided, hey, the 8,800 is not what we want, I can always go back to the previous one and make this the active estimate instead. So you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, where did I store the previous proposal I sent to the client? It is, as long as you use this create revision, it's going to track and keep track and all the historical and the previous or active estimates you've been using. And you can jump back and forth between them as long as this job has not been approved yet and the work has not started on it yet. And last but not least, I'm going to go back to the previous one. If you're sending a revision, because you can select which line item to show or not show, maybe they approved the previous web design part and we just need them to approve the creative services. So you can just say, I want to generate the client-facing version of the new items I've added. And voila, here you go. Now my estimate is very quickly created, but it's still kept under the same job bucket. So in overall, that is how Function Point CRM works. It's very straightforward. It's a very simple process. Again, company will track all of your leads. The notes is where you track your communications. Briefs are optional. And then estimates is where you track your opportunities with the approval status, the probability, and the month close.